excuse me about that.
All right, looks good on both. So welcome everyone to the Foolish Tech Show. It is a Thursday afternoon, and we are here primarily to provide support and answer any questions about our products and services. And if you have any of those, you can feel free to jump over to our IRC chat at foolishtechshow.com or foolishit.com/live. There's a few different ways you can join that IRC chat and talk directly to us about any issues or questions or demos you may like. Otherwise, we're going to fill the time with what we find as interesting news and items, and feel free to partake and direct in those as well from our IRC chat. And looks like we got DG Murdoch III, a couple of the Futures Tech crew joined in, and Shook in there. And looks like DG Murdoch III left a link here. Let's see what link that is. So the GitHub for Hijack This. I'll repost that in case somebody missed that. I've used Hijack This a lot, and it was bought out by somebody. Michael, do you know who it was bought out by? No? You can't talk.
No, I can talk. I'm sorry. I'm trying to figure it out.
I know it was bought by one of the, like NCSoft or one of those.
Okay, what computer has a Trend Micro?
That was close.
Trend Micro released a source code, and that's why it's on SourceForge as of February 16, 2012. So that's been up there for a while.
Yeah, they've owned it for quite some time. Still, it's a fairly good product, so it does what it does pretty well. In other news, apparently people's Twitter accounts getting hacked is kind of a catching on fad. But in this case, it was Oculus's CEO. Their Twitter account got hacked, and they used it to announce that there's a new CEO. So that's pretty good. Oh wow, they used the same password for 4 years, all from that article. Crazy. So yeah, change your password, enable two-factor auth, although that doesn't always save you because people can hack your cell phone company and just get the text message sent right to them. So not much you can do, I guess. But looks like Samsung has the monopoly on broadcasting the Rio Olympics in VR. Oh, that's this year. They did not look ready for having Olympics this year. That's going to be fun. The Olympics in Rio.
I'm a little concerned about that between the Zika virus and the issues with the government down there, and
there's a good Vox story on that.
Well, but this is the thing that's, I mean, you know about this, right? Because I think John Oliver covered it, but Olympics are horrible for the cities that they go to. I mean, typically how they're handled.
Yeah, well, he covered it more for the FIFA thing, but that.
But the same things apply to the Olympics, I would imagine.
Kinda, but you got more of a world backing on that. I mean, FIFA's the World Soccer League, but that's not like all the nations of the world compete. Well, I guess it is kind of, but I still feel like the Olympics beat out FIFA.
I do, but I don't necessarily think what happens in the city as far as the money getting dumped onto a city and how that money is actually spent and used, and what good it brings to the city after that everyone leaves. I think all of those things apply equally to Olympics and their venues, just as it did to FIFA and its. But
Yeah, Brazil is building a whole new city for the Olympics.
yeah, yeah, which will probably become a ghost town once the Olympics are over.
Possibly, it's supposed to be a rich town for exclusive town for the rich. So.
Yeah, well, we'll see, because of the large, rich population in Rio, right?
Hmm.
Um,
Well, there's a lot of ones that vacation there.
oh, there certainly are, but those usually aren't citizens. But anyway, the favelas, or no, what am I thinking of? What are the ghettos in Rio? What are those called?
There's a whole town of them.
Yeah, I mean they're huge. Let's see. Favela. Yeah, I was right. Favela.
Hey, is that link the one that Phoenix posted yesterday? Um, Office 365 has ransomware. Yeah, ransomware targets Microsoft Office 365. Is that the same link that you're about to?
Item zero-day exploit might be. Uh,
Yep, same link. I beat you to it. Haha. um,
uh, easy guys. It's not a competition.
Gosh, Phoenix needs to take off all his Feedly stuff after that, or RSS stuff after that. It's crazy. Um, his link compared to mine.
Wow.
Yeah, but so I didn't look a lot into that article yesterday though. Is there a lot going on with that 0-day exploit? Um, it looks like it's doing the macro thing.
Once again, a great new tactic by all these malicious vendors.
Hmm. Yeah, that's so disabling macros and don't open email attachments you don't know about.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of agree with macros. Like I think macros should have been something like ActiveX, where everybody doesn't trust it and is afraid of it. Unless you run Internet Explorer all the time, then I guess you just install ActiveX like nothing else. But it is a very dangerous technology. um,
Um, hmm.
so, did you know that Jupiter had northern lights as well? I knew it would have the possibility of it, but solar
I,
flares get pretty far, I guess.
no, I actually did not. I can't imagine they're as impressive as they are here.
It looks pretty nice from that picture.
Huh. Um, all right, I'll have to take a look at that.
Ours seem a lot more colorful, but theirs are all just blue, it looks like. But still pretty cool.
Um, yeah, briefly, I don't want to go into much detail, but my brother and I are in a interesting discussion. We were both anticipating a new graphics card that was just released yesterday. I'll post a link to it, but he's uh, he's kind of drank the Kool-Aid and kind of the whole headlines of it bringing a new level of performance to the $200 price point. And that's true, at least for right now. I'm a little bit concerned though because, for instance, the performance per watt and even the performance per dollar to AMD's last generation Maxwell architecture um, is basically the same. And yeah, it's a huge improvement compared with AMD's previous products and graphics-related discrete products. However, it's not so much in comparison to the competition. And had they launched this product 3 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, I think I would have been a lot more strongly behind it. But
Yeah, I
another
don't see
interest,
why anyone wouldn't go for a 1070 instead.
well, I agree. Now, the 1070 is legitimately more expensive. In fact, you could buy two of these for the cost of a 1070 typically.
No,
However,
the 480 was like 235.
the 8 gig version is selling for about 240. So for 480, that's around the price of a 1070. 1070 retails for 500.
I thought 1070 was for 400.
I think 470 or something like that, real high 400s. But
Well,
but
if you're getting a better card, it's not. It's a big difference. If you're getting the better card for less money, that's a good deal.
well,
450. So we're both
the some would argue
no.
that the two 480s would beat out the 970 in certain benchmarks. But at any rate, the points I got out of it were this. Um, while a great dramatic improvement from the previous generation, they used the 14 nanometer FinFET fabrication technology to do this. NVIDIA's previous generation used something like a 22 or 28 nanometer. That's huge difference. You're talking about virtually cutting it in half. Um, the thing is, though, that their current new card with that new technology performs as well as their last generation card on a much older processing technology. Again, a lackluster showing in delivery. Now, one thing they do have the advantage of seemingly is stock, whereas it's still extremely difficult, if not impossible, to buy 1070s. It does seem likely that you'll be able to buy a 480 today if you're interested, as it was also available yesterday. The price point is great.
How do they stand up against the 970s?
Well, it tends to exact almost exactly the same performance. In some cases, it wins. In other cases, the 970 wins, but it's virtually identical levels of performance. And those numbers don't really change. Now, it does show up a little bit better solely in DirectX 12 benchmarks than DirectX 11, but still the vast number of games are DirectX 11. DirectX 12 games that have been patched DirectX 12 tend to not work that well under DirectX 12 yet, and there's some issues with a lot of people haven't been able to benchmark under DirectX 12 like they would like to for review purposes. That's a separate point, and actually I think that's them dragging their feet on not adopting some newer standards for testing. But long story short is it's almost identical to the 970, and the fact that it's June 2016 and they're putting out a product identical to NVIDIA's last generation product, and their 970 wasn't even the lead of the last generation product, to me is a bit concerning. I'm a big fan of AMD. What they needed to deliver here was great, and I think they delivered good. Now, normally that wouldn't be bad, but their position in the market right now is struggling, and there's some concerns that they'll even file bankruptcy. So I just wanted to see what everyone else's take on it was. There's a lot of nuances to this. A couple of things: the fact that there's one 6-pin power connector that drives it, the fact that it tends to draw more than the PCI Express allotted power draw for the slot, the fact that they could have easily addressed that as well as limited overclocking concerns with an 8-pin power connector, and the fact that they used a blower, which ever since the original blower design that they came up with back in the day have been
I'm sorry, I
criticized as
haven't
being
been listening
loud,
since I said something last time.
has been loud and hot. So I would encourage you guys to consider that. Now, listen, I've been a
No,
fan, and
listen. Quark posted something really interesting, and that's why I haven't been listening to you for the past couple
oh,
minutes.
USB RAID array.
Yeah, so this guy took flash drives and made a RAID array.
That's been possible
It's
for a long
kind of
time.
interesting. I don't know why you would want to run your system off USB drives. I barely trust USB drives in any form.
Reliability must be horrible, and
Oh man.
every time a
But
drive drops out of an array, you have to rebuild the array. Typically, depending upon the sort of the array, it is almost always the case, and that for a flash drive would seem.
well, I mean, if they did a RAID 10 or something, that would kind of get close to worth it because the cost for redundancy would be way, way cheaper.
Maybe.
But when he was looking at it, the price of flash drives is it's like basically like you're paying for the latest and greatest SSD of that nature anyway. So you'd still be better off buying one SSD over trying to RAID array.
I agree, and this is generally also relates back to the video card comparisons and talking about having two, 480s, let's say. If you can get one card, versus two, at the same performance, I would say, go for that. The lighter load, the better. Um, and
Well, they
in
they
this
did have a
case,
couple comparisons. The write speed is incredibly faster, and you're talking about flash memory already, so making that incredibly faster is actually really
yeah, but there's nothing. The problem is the reliability. For instance, the SSDs. There's enterprise level SSDs that are rated for many petabytes worth of writing that are great if you need something like this, and you could easily RAID together as many conventional SSDs as you want to attain the performance levels that you're talking about. The problem is USB flash drives. I doubt they're even warranted for 3 years. If they are, it's kind of surprising, but their cost and a lot of, just I don't
well.
know.
The
It
the
seems
other
like it would be
interesting side of
problematic.
that is that he did not see that great of a improvement from read speed.
What do you know? What
The
RAID array
write
he used?
speed
What
was.
RAID type he used?
No, I didn't catch that in the
See,
recent.
because and also too, I need to note that is he using UASP as the uh, method of transfer on those USB drives. USB by itself, in the traditional method of file transfer, has high CPU overhead associated with it, and that might be a limiting factor to the extent that you could rate them. And it may be that, for instance, I don't know, I haven't looked at the numbers at all, but if the write numbers are good and the read numbers are bad, maybe the readers are being limited by one of those factors, and the writes is not. There's that issue, and that typically isn't ever a factor. The interface overhead isn't a factor with most conventional SSDs, although people would argue that AHCI is in and of itself a limitation. That's why NVMe has become popular recently to overcome some of those limitations even in that, but USB in comparison is an order of magnitude worse in that regard. Now, there are methods to eliminate that. Like I said, I believe it's called UASP. It's like the SCSI version of USB communication, sort of,
Mhm.
and it's far more efficient for file transfers and stuff. Now, not all of those things are good for all universal devices, so I'm not suggesting that every device blindly switch over, but certainly for flash storage, that's something to consider. Anyway, it's interesting. I would say I think there's other solutions that would work better.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking it may be a better cost wise, but I mean, the video is over a year old, but still, from his cost analysis, you're looking at a nice SSD drive when you get the same amount in flash
A lot's
drives.
happened in a year, though, in the lowering costs of conventional SSDs. I mean, now when you can buy a 128
Yeah,
gig
well, flash
SSD
memories
for.
come down as well, so.
Oh no, it affects them both. You're right, that's true. But you can get a conventional SSD for 128 gigs, let's say for what, $60 or something like that. That I think that's why bother with a USB? But
Well, this isn't as interesting, but it's pretty interesting. Some people were sober enough long enough to realize that they could play beer pong with their
oh, I saw that. Yeah, the Roombas.
Rhombus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those. So I'm assuming the beer cups are on top of the Roombas and the Roombas move around,
Yeah,
and you
so they
try
got
to.
them on the table and they won't go off the table, so they're always
Uh,
just moving around the little table and they got
y-
cups on them.
yeah. I'm sure that's a great way to ruin your Roomba after spilling all your beer all over it.
Well, I was going to say it would be great for cleanup. I mean, if someone knocks into the table, the Roomba just picks it all up.
I don't think it works exactly like that.
I wonder if they have a wet dry Roomba.
Yeah. Yeah. And it would be incredibly frustrating, and I'm sure people would probably die playing that game as a result. It's hard enough to play beer pong when you've had a few in you and you're trying to do it stationary locations for the cups, let alone moving around. And
People would die from it. How many
well,
people have died from regular beer pong?
well, I'm just thinking the inebriation intoxication might, because of the longer duration of the game as a
Oh
result of
yeah,
the
when drunk
difficulty of
people, you
gaming.
can't have them around Roombas, man. That just incites riots. Is that a moving robot? Kill it!
I wasn't exactly where I was going, but yeah, I don't know. I just not so sure Roombas have a place in beer pong.
All right. Well, no parties for Michael. Um, so Google on Android has finally added something that I've long awaited for: multiple destinations on your navigation directions. It's like, how did it take them this long to do that?
Yeah, I know. You've been able to add a waypoint, I believe, in certain
Yeah, but
cases.
that only started this year too.
Yeah, yeah, and
It's like,
and
geez, I
even
need to get
then that
to the
was
gas station.
very
Come on.
limited, yeah, in how it worked and was implemented. I don't know. I worry about them sometimes with all their
And
seemingly
it's all
infinite
right. It's
resources.
nice not having it. Like waypoints were nice because then when I pulled into the gas station, it wasn't yelling at me to turn around the entire time. It was like, "Yep, pull into the gas station." But as soon as I got there, it wanted me to leave immediately.
Yeah.
We should add like all right, give me 5 minutes. I
Um,
That would be a great OK Google command.
I've been enjoying the Velociraptor. I just want to make a shout out to that once more. Google still has yet to do speed limits and speed postings on Google Maps when driving directions are given, and Velociraptor fills that need. It works pretty nice. It automatically comes up when you open Google Maps, and it shows you what it believes to be the actual speed limit, and it'll give you even a little beep 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 warning and change the speed to red when you exceed the speed limit.
Nice.
I wish I had that activated when I was coming back and getting my speeding ticket, but other than that,
That would have been a good idea.
yeah.
Um, So speaking of Google, they also came out with something fairly big, I guess, yesterday. My Activity. So a new Google account setting where you can see all the activity from your Google account. Supposedly, this is Google trying to tell you everything it knows about you. And
I don't know. I saw it more as just them exposing settings for being logged in and being logged out to the users as far as the Google ad tracking is concerned and advertising pushes. And so you get a little bit more
click
flexibility.
on that link. Click on that link, and you'll see what it shows you. Um, So, like for me today, I've had 112 items, a majority of them in Chrome, some in Android, YouTube, search, and now. And like it goes all the way down to telling you when you opened an app
Hmm.
on your
Interestingly, I'm seeing far less data, although I'm showing data from maps and from searchings. It looks like it's solely based upon what no, that's not true. Some
phone. Is
of it's
that the
based
same
upon what
account you log into your phone with?
yeah, some of it's my phone and some of it's my desktop, but it doesn't actually. Oh, I know why. It's because I have a privacy badger and the ad blockers and everything like that on. So my computer is sending very little data, seemingly still some, but very little data to Google, and my phone seems to actually be sending a little bit more, surprisingly, because I don't seem to have those apps on it.
I was gonna say, what do you have on your phone that would be blocking it?
No, in other words, my phone's sending more data than my desktop is. Nothing's on my phone that should be blocking the communication, I don't think. Um, So basically, like my map stuff that happens on Google Maps, which I do with my cell phone, is what it's largely reporting. And then as far as the desktop stuff, it gets some of my searches, but it doesn't even seem to get like it just found it knows that I searched for Rio Ghetto and for the uh, and it did give me the appropriate result that I was looking for there. And I wanted to post that RX 480 review from Tech Power Up, so I did a Tech Power Up search, and it knew that, and it knew when I was using my maps in my car earlier today. Um, but not a whole lot else. So my web searches are, I can turn that off, and my maps searches, but other than that, I'm pretty clean.
Jeez, Ian, what kind of link did you send me here? Yeah, I got the whole. They played the Sausage Party R-rated ad before Finding Dory, the probably G-rated, PG-rated movie. But right below that, man stabbed in theater while watching Blake Lively's The Shallow is hospitalized with life-threatening injuries. So apparently, a 20-year-old male was assaulted about 30 minutes after the film started and was stabbed multiple times before he was able to escape the attacker and run out of the theater. Um, Out of nowhere, he came up behind me. He stabbed him in the throat, the arm, and the lung. Jeez. And they arrested the attacker
Hmm.
after he threw the knife in the trash can.
Oh, stop. Don't play that. Don't. Okay, good. Yeah, I almost messed up. Guys, sorry about that.
That's a crazy story.
That is. I wanted to look into that a little bit further, but it looks like I'll have to postpone.
Yeah, autoplay videos. Terrible.
Hmm.
But hey, if y'all are interested in massive surveillance on a nationwide scale, the Amazon Echo is on sale today. So $40 off a refurbished Amazon Echo. Apparently, some people decided, hey, I don't want to be monitored all the time and listened to all the time. No Shazam, I don't want you to automatically listen to me either while I'm talking about the Echo listening to you all the time. Amazon or Shazam on my phone apparently wants to do it too. So it just listens and finds songs, which, no, that's not cool. Well, guess what's back this year? Amazon Prime Day, July 12th. They're having that biggest global Amazon event ever for the second annual. I thought that would be the first annual, wouldn't it? I'm pretty sure it would. They've only had it once before. Because this will be the first time they do it every year. So it'll be first annual. Anyway. Ooh, Domes of Silence would be an awesome thing. Oh, in relation to the Amazon's always listening.
What's Domes of Silence?
I guess they're talking about in relation to my rant about Amazon Echo always listening to you and surveillance and things. Quark, what makes you think they aren't already using the Xbox One for covert surveillance? I'm pretty sure they are. That's why Nick is afraid of having it in his house.
Actually, I would argue against that. It's still widely, popularly used by terrorists, from what I understand, to communicate using various
Oh,
in-game
okay.
chatting, because they don't actually log the chats themselves, or at least they haven't. And so I would assume
The
that most of
chats
those,
themselves? What are you talking about?
the voice chat, the like in-game chat,
No, they're talking about the Xbox can do like what the Amazon Echo can do, right?
Y-
Like if you yell
Oh, yeah, yeah,
inside,
yeah. I got that. Uh-huh.
it'll do things. So
Uh-huh.
it's listening to you all the time. So
Okay.
it's they were
Okay, so this
saying
is
that can
outside of the
hear.
actual game network itself.
Yeah,
Okay.
this is like the Xbox itself listens to you all the time.
Yeah. Well, that's
Big
a
Brother can
possibility,
definitely
but it would
do
seem so that so they surveil that which terrorists don't use, but they don't surveil the Xbox and PlayStation networks to capture that data which the terrorists do use.
Yeah,
Okay,
well, you're gonna
that's
listen to
good.
a bunch of 16-year-old gamers cussing at each other for fake killing each other. That's probably like the perfect place for them to hide, honestly, because no one's gonna listen to all that. And it's like every person there says a red flagged
I
word. Like,
know, but we'll pass 1,000 laws to monitor every other form of communication in the world to inconvenience every person in the world and not inconvenience any terrorists because they're not using it. Yet they'll avoid something like that. And this is just how incompetent our lawmakers are when it comes to technology. They have no clue. It's basically up to somebody on Twitter to inform them of what's going on with technology, and that's when they automatically come up with these bills that are horribly written. Um, we need a we should have some sort of technical panel, I believe, that reviews laws specifically that are related to technology because it's clearly something that the lawmakers with their current qualifications are completely
you
incompetent
just
in.
have to wait until they die out. It won't
Yeah,
be
well,
long. It
it's
won't be
so
long
odd that most
now.
of those people hold in our legislature basically never get voted against. You know, why?
I know,
How can
and they'll
somebody be in
die out
office for 60 or
eventually.
80 years
They will
um,
die out
in an
eventually.
elected position? In an elected position, how is that possible? I don't get it.
They'll die out eventually.
I know. I think I know. It's just one group of people that's voting, and only those people.
So this guy has four girls, and he tweets conversations about them, their conversations that they have. Um, Pretty good stuff in there, I feel. Like the second one there. Who ate all the cookies? 5-year-old responds, Ninja. I didn't see them. 5-year-old responds, no one ever does.
Dun dun dun. Awesome.
There are some other good ones. Let's see if I can find them real quick. Uh,
I didn't realize this is new news, but
New news?
well, we don't hear much good about the environment these days and environmental recovery. But I don't know if you're like me, but basically, I grew up with Save the Whales in the '80s and Earth Day, things and all that stuff. And one of the big topics of that point in time was the ozone layer and when chlorofluorocarbons and aerosol sprays and things like that. Um, it looks like there's actually signs of it healing. So all those steps and actions that we took a number of decades ago back then are paying off, which is good. I'll look into that a little bit more in detail. I haven't read it all in its completion, but yeah, if you're like me, this was something that was being widely talked about, and seems like it's just disappeared since, and nobody mentions it. But it's good to know people still do care about that.
So another one was the 4-year-old daughter points to a dead squirrel in the road and says, he was a boy. So the dad asks, how can you tell? 4-year-old responds, he was stupid.
Right.
Um, yeah, so there's some good stuff in there if you check around. It's pretty funny. In other news, looks like Linux Mint 18 is starting to roll out here,
Oh, Mint, good distribution.
and that's based off of the updated Ubuntu LTS core, I believe.
Did Did you talk about this? I haven't digested this yet, so please excuse me if this is wrong in any way. Um, but that Mint, by the way, thank you for that. I am gonna take a look at that. Mint's the one, if I'm not mistaken, right? It's the one that's like very much like a Windows desktop, right?
Slightly.
It's a little bit
It's the
more
one that
Windows
I run.
friendly. Let's say somebody
It's
coming from a Windows backend.
it's the one that I run on my laptop, and it works. Like it,
Yeah, but one of
the
the reasons I
majority
chose
of
it
the
is it
stuff
felt a little bit more comfortable for a Windows user. Is uh,
it,
maybe
I
anyway,
mean,
I thought that was the case.
I, I I feel it's if you're a computer user or not. Like just a
Ah,
regular Windows user would still have trouble on Mint because your Windows programs aren't going to run on it.
well,
But
of course, of course.
if
So,
you're a regular computer user, then you're better off.
did you talk about this one though? About certain things that are illegal that are show up in warranties from all the major manufacturers?
I saw it, but I didn't want to talk about it because it
Yeah.
had too many words.
Yeah, it's a lot of words, but I would look into it, and this is again about buyer beware and reading the details. But basically, sometimes large manufacturers, including Microsoft and Google and Apple and a whole lot of others, will include statements um, in their license agreements and warranties that basically are not allowed by law.
Well, that's
Um,
how you win lawsuits, right?
yeah, yeah. But I don't know. I need to read more into that. I'm surprised. And what does this mean? And will they change that verbiage? And if they don't, will people actually start suing? What's the
Well,
implication of all
I think a
this?
lot of things fall on the Computer Fraud Act too.
Yeah. Oh, and that brings up another story. I don't have the link, but they're testing the ACLU, I believe, is filing something against that because the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act because. Um, they're doing it on behest of researchers, and they say that the researchers are stymied by in their
Yeah.
research with those types of things. Now, I find that to be kind of a hard argument for some lawmakers to buy. Oh, it's just for research, and it's okay in those sense. But ultimately, that's how we're kept safe by I guess the white hats kind of
Yeah.
poking around and checking things. And there is certainly a value to that service, and it's one of the largest growing fields.
Well,
Um,
and
now,
as we saw with Volkswagen, there's a reason why they don't want people poking around.
yeah, yeah.
Because we'll find out that they're doing illegal crap.
So I'm in agreement with the lawsuit, I suppose, but I also on the same hand I don't find that it's going to be easily passed or agreed to have that be. First of all, it's a big loophole, and second, they probably explicitly want to protect those big bank accounts. It's not fun to piss
Sure,
off
that's
those
the
folks.
Linux Mint I use too, the Cinnamon. I haven't tried the latest 18 version, but it does work pretty well. I was really excited about it. I tried Ubuntu first on my Asus laptop, and one of the interesting things about that laptop is it has both a Intel graphics card and a add-on GeForce graphics card.
Mm.
So it's got a primary display and then a overdrive kind of graphics card. And Ubuntu, it didn't just automatically pick that up. The drivers section in Ubuntu didn't automatically pick up that I had an NVIDIA card in there as well. And it was really, really a lot of reading to get the NVIDIA driver installed on Ubuntu. So I was like, all right, I'll try Mint instead. And Mint had it so that when I set it up, everything was already there, installed and working and perfect. So I have both the Intel and the
Yeah,
GeForce.
I mean, I wouldn't hold that too much against Ubuntu just because that is a relatively limited number of users going to have a setup quite like that.
A
Um,
lot of laptops are coming with that now.
really, is that a growing trend? I
Yeah,
don't see
because
that.
that
I
way,
thought that was the whole reason why the vast majority of
well, no, that
Intel's
way
improving there.
you can do regular laptop stuff without draining your battery.
Yeah, and then when you play a game, you can suck it dry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it kicks it into overdrive.
But overdrive is just a fancy name for basically just saying you're switching from one to the other, powering one down, and
It's kind of, well, I don't know how it works exactly because it is kind of interesting that they have, like, I literally have two display drivers in my computer and they manage themselves.
well, this has been actually allowed since when was it? Since Vista, I believe, allowed multiple drivers to be installed and function. Now, your
Yeah,
ability for
but
those cards to sometimes interoperate
into the same monitor, yeah, a seamless integration into the same
are.
monitor.
It wouldn't be what it would just be the effect of a digital cable cut, a digital virtual cable, basically. I don't see that as being too terribly hard to implement.
I don't see them doing it on desktops for SLI stuff.
Um, uh, well,
I mean, why would they have gone to SLI for desktops if this was so easy? Like you can get a, like, I mean, even
Oh, well, I mean,
why wouldn't
SLI,
you
but
already have
that's a
like
difference.
motherboards?
SLI is designed to improve the performance by combining multiple graphics cards. This is different. This is favoring a lower end part when you're doing non-graphics intensive work, and then favoring a higher end part when you are engaged in higher, so they could
Yeah,
simply
well,
be
that would make more
monitoring the.
sense though. If that was if it was so easy and seamless to go for, I would feel like it would be better if all of your, like every motherboard you got, no matter what, had a onboard video.
Well, okay. Well, well,
And then
Intel's
you just
processors
added a
do.
card
Intel's
to use that
processors do,
same.
but here's the catch. Here's the catch. With Intel's integrated graphics, typically it will disable itself. Most motherboards disable the onboard graphics when the PCI Express graphics is detected and
That's what I'm
applies
saying. It would have been
is
way
run.
better if motherboards just had that. So all motherboards come with a video card already built in, right? So you have that, and then when you buy a graphics card, you're just buying a piece that goes in and takes over, uses the same display port and everything, but you just have a card that plugs in and takes over
Yeah.
instead of
Uh,
like,
yeah, I like that idea. That doesn't give as much control. You're pretty much when you buy your motherboard, then what that would mean is that if it didn't have the future video connector you needed, you were kind of stuck. And you'd have to get basically a whole new motherboard, new computer if you wanted to upgrade your video capabilities at that point. I mean, you could, I guess, within the connectors, you could always upgrade with what you're talking about. But there probably are some limitations in there. I like that idea generally, but there might be some problems with it too. Um, I believe they wanted to give flexibility, more flexibility to the add-in board makers. Okay. I also think that they're trying to reduce the cost of typically motherboard costs want to be on the low end. There's not a whole lot of
well, I haven't
profit
seen a
margin
lot
in
of I
motherboards.
mean, you're not going to get like a gaming laptop that's going to be on the lower end, and it's not like your budget laptops are coming with dual graphics
Well,
cards.
but see, part of this is also mitigated by, um, and maybe I'm wrong. I haven't looked at this maybe as much as you have for this, but I believe some of this is mitigated by the, graphics card itself and its driver being able to do power management. In other words, theoretically, the graphics card, despite it being a high-end graphics card, should be able to turn most of itself off when it's just doing regular desktop work, and save the associated energy and power with that. If that were working as they advertise that it should work and that they advertise is happening, then I'm not so sure having that kind of dual GPU is all that relevant. Now, of course,
Well,
if
I feel like it would make them cheaper.
I don't
Like
know.
add-on
Uh,
graphics would be cheaper at that point.
because of the connectors, maybe, but I don't know about that. I also would think that there may be induced or increased. Well,
Geez,
this is
Futures Tech
scary.
Crew, if you're going after that, that would be impressive. I haven't played a lot with Kinects. They do look fairly cool, but not worth the dollar amount associated with them. And I don't have that much time, especially the one that's bigger than the apartment there. That's a little bit connects ridiculous.
Okay.
But if you do that for your office, bring it to Spice World.
And okay, so I've showed you this. I thought I mentioned this before, but if not, I certainly want to. And again, traffic tickets are a big thing. Parking tickets are a big thing, especially in
We talked
cities.
about it yesterday.
Uh,
The robot lawyer.
the chat bot thing. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, anyway, for you guys that missed it, sorry. Um,
Oh yeah, well, Netflix is rebooting Lost in Space, so take
oh,
that
you
for
know
your.
that movie the movie the sci-fi that came out a number of years ago now, I want to say, maybe the early 2000s or something, but it I
With
thought was reasonably done well.
Danny, what's his name?
Dan,
Uh, let's see if it's the same one. There's one that came out in '98.
and that might have been it. Yeah, 1998. Yeah, that's it with Gary Oldman. He was in it. Yeah. Um, I uh, I thought this was done well, and I'm surprised. I really like the special effects for 1998. They were excellent, and William Hurt, yeah, played the lead. It's a great cast. Oh, Matt LeBlanc was in it too. Yeah, that's
What
the only
was the
real
what was the
regrettable.
movie that Danny McBride was in?
I don't know what you're talking about, but it obviously wasn't this one. Um,
He fought the space lizards.
oh, you're talking about Starship Troopers, right?
No, he was definitely not in any of the Starship Trooper
Oh.
movies.
Okay, well this was the Lost in Space one that I was referring to. I kind of like this. Now I watched the original show, sure. I was sitcom. I mean, it was big in the 80s. At any rate, it was entertaining for a kid as a child at the time, but that's about it. The story was obviously a bit weird and shallow, and I was kind of surprised at how well they were turning it into a harder sci-fi flick. I thought in this in that 1998 movie, and
Land of the Lost.
if they wanted, oh no, that's um, there was a remake of that.
Yeah, with Danny McBride in it. It was awesome.
Was it good?
2009. It had Will Ferrell in it, man.
Did I see that? Oh, that Danny McBride. Oh, now I know who you're talking about. Yeah. Um,
That movie. And yes, Eric, I remember now the Lost in Space, and I always felt like Lost in Space writing was terrible anyway, but maybe that's just me. Let's see what Netflix does with it in 2018.
no, I would like to see them continue where in that 1998 movie tradition. If they can do anything with that would be nice.
Um, so I thought this was a pretty interesting story, and Michael, this kind of just reinforces your anti-social behaviors. But
Mm,
so Facebook unleashed a new feature
uh-oh.
and kind of took this guy by surprise because apparently he was like only sharing stuff with certain people, and Facebook knew about his whole secret relationship. So when they put a slideshow of all his photos up, they included slideshows of
Private stuff.
his affair style stuff.
Hmm.
So
So when the wife logs in that day and looks at her husband's page,
slideshow, yeah.
she sees, yeah. Um, well, that's like I said, when you have all hail Mark Zuckerberg as Caesar, and have him run the country. However, or have him run over a
Did
billion
you
people.
watch that
However he
movie,
wants.
Hail Caesar?
Yeah, I was. That's probably why I referenced it. But yeah, I was looking into that. That seemed pretty good. It's got a heck of a blockbuster cast in it.
It,
A little bit of
it
a musical, almost.
is crazy,
But it's a wild
crazy movie.
story. It's about a fixer in what is it, 1950s Hollywood?
Somewhere around there with the communists and all that.
Yeah, yeah, with the 50s McCarthy and stuff like that. Anyway, yeah. Um, Politics around that period were interesting during the very early Cold War. Um, at any rate, I think it's worth a watch. Certainly, I'm gonna go and finish it at my leisure. But yeah, looked good. And if you like cast, especially what Josh Brolin or whatever is the lead or one of the leads. Um,
What's his name? Was the main or one of the big leads? The
Josh
guy from Oh Brother Where Art Thou?
Josh Brolin. Oh yeah, I'm sure.
George Clooney.
George Clooney. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's in it too. But that's not one. Josh Brolin was, I think, the guy I'm actually talking about. But anyway.
It was a pretty funny movie though. It's good, but yeah, it's very very hard to keep up with the various ways that social media can out you, let alone trying to keep a secret in this digital age. Now, for something a little bit different, here's a shark with a mammogram or sonogram or yeah, sonogram.
Sonogram is not a mammogram, by the way, but
This shark
it's
may
not a
have
baby
cancer.
shark.
Those are
Oh, it
baby
is a baby shark. Sonogram. So that is a mammogram, effectively. What's the difference?
sharks.
What is the sonogram, mammogram?
Now you're confusing me. What do those words mean? I don't know.
Versus sonogram. I mean, a mammogram has to involve reproduction, mammalian
I thought
reproduction,
mammogram
and
was the thing that
sonography
checks for
is.
cancer.
Oh yeah, yeah, breast cancer. Oh, what am I? I'm thinking of ultrasounds, not sonogram. Are ultrasounds and sonograms the same thing? That's what I'm thinking of.
I think that's correct. I'm glad we have that all worked out now. Um,
Yes. My apologies. I am a man, in case you didn't know, so I don't have to go for the mammograms. Well, actually, maybe. Do we have to at some point? Is it possible we can get breast cancer too, can't we? Um,
I didn't even know the difference between the two words, so I don't know how that works.
yeah, I actually would
Now that
like to remain
Michael's
ignorant of all
fully
these things.
depressed us, let me show you which are the biggest party hubs in the U.S. By number of bars, dance clubs, beer gardens, country dance halls, jazz and blues venues, karaoke, music venues, piano bars, and pool halls. And New York ranks the top. LA is second. And then surprisingly, San Francisco.
In the top what?
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 San Francisco is number third.
But sister party? Why don't you? Why are you surprised by that? It's always been a very liberal party city.
I don't know, but their numbers do look a lot less than the other two
Hmm.
major city hubs that I would say.
Well, I mean, it has to do with population densities and things, I'm sure. I don't know. Did you guys
I
talk
did
about?
think it was interesting that Denver got on the list, though, the top 10 list there.
Well, obviously you know why, and that's also a big factor in San Francisco too. So, at any rate, uh, did you talk about Google's new 60 terabit cable?
The one from Japan to the U.S.
Yeah, it's actually yeah, it goes. I forget where it goes off of for the U.S. from, but it hits two places in Japan. Yeah, 60 terabits total, and
So it is the one from Japan to the U.S.
yes.
No, we have not talked about that.
Well,
They
there's
just
not a whole lot to talk about, but
they
it's
just turned it on today, so
yeah,
that I
they
can get my animes faster.
y y y I I don't know exactly what immediate impact you're going to see from it, but likely it will be able to accommodate, the increased uh, growth in their market.
Is this going to make it so that
And
they
and data. This is
they're
more for their
releasing
data
actual
centers. This is
faster
well, look. There's a couple things you could read into this. This is for their data centers.
for
So
Google's data centers?
yeah, okay. So
Oh, we
basically,
don't even use it. They laid a whole cable across the ocean, and we don't even get to use it.
well, I mean, I don't, technically we do use it, I would say, but what I'm getting at is that if Google wanted to do something with our, now of course Japan's very close with their government to ours, but but this is amazing how they can just pretty much transfer all their data somewhere else. It would be very difficult, for instance, for somebody in the US to see all of Google's data without every other country that Google operates in, um, potentially being havens for that. Um, I don't know. I mean, this is part of their infrastructure. That I'm sure it determines their ability to serve data to people, to perform their searches, to do their map stuff, to do everything else. Um, but I don't know. It's just it's curiosity. It's interesting. It's kind of scary that now these independent entities, these independent companies, have the ability to pay for these types of cables, and how actual governments pretty much can't afford the those types of things. And so, whereas like in our country, we rolled out, the roads, the national highway system, and things like that, and built up infrastructure and created a lot of jobs in doing that for people. None of that takes place with, the internet, as it were. Obviously, the infrastructure is not controlled by the government; it's controlled by private entities, and I don't know. Law's a questionable point there, especially when you're talking about overseas cables. Um,
Goes through international waters.
yeah.
Um, so back on the Roombas, apparently iRobot is coming up with a lawnmower bot. I'm guessing you just turn this on and let it mow your entire yard all day, every day.
Wonder how many kids will be eaten by those things before they.
Yeah, I hope it picks up sticks too, and trash, and children if they're in the yard. Um, yeah, I would be kind of concerned too about people coming and just picking up my lawn mowing robot. Yes, automated blades.
Oh,
Oh, good.
did you talk about that the Air Force AI thing? I thought that was kind of interesting story.
No,
Um,
that is cool though.
I was a fan of Top Gun, when I was a kid, and you know, uh, mm, the type of fighter pilot dogfights situations. I always thought that it was truly that skill, that whatever, and I see it to this day. Even the female pilots, and they all seem to have this, they like. Brawlers in a ring kind of type thing, and I always kind of related it to that. Yet, it would appear that some of our best pilots wouldn't hold up against the types of AI that they're implementing for um, unmanned vehicles. Uh, so basically, what happened was the fighter pilot, who's had a lot of experience, he actually trains other pilots, so he pretty much knows exactly what to do in every situation. Um, he just couldn't keep up. In fact, he got to the point where the computer was able to switch so rapidly between defensive and offensive postures that he couldn't get a target lock on the guy and on the AI. And it was, I mean, it wasn't just that he lost. I mean, it was impossibly wide margin. In other words, he might as well not have been there. Like the computer didn't care that there was somebody fighting him, basically. And if it's like that, pretty much I can see sooner rather than later our entire armed force is being completely replaced. Humans are weak, they don't always follow orders, and they can just die, and they're hard to replace. You got to raise them for 18 years apparently before you get another one in the field. Drones and unmanned vehicles and the AI associated with those, I think, can do a lot better jobs with a lot less, what do they call it? Auxiliary damage. What's the word I'm looking for? Um,
Oh, those wavy arm balloon people. Is that what you're talking about?
damage.
So you're miming.
Collateral damage is the term that I'm trying to refer to. At any rate, I'd like to see that come to pass, but it does remind me oddly of a whole lot of sci-fi I used to watch about wars being fought in the future. And in fact, there were a couple of ones, I think it was a Star Trek episode or original series episode, but basically the two future civilizations, they were in war and they were fighting each other, and it was all computer warfare. And basically, at the end of each day, they'd tally up the losses, and then they'd select people from their populations, and they'd mark them off to a gas chamber, basically, to kill them. So, in other words, there's still, in order for you to fight a war, there has to be resources gained and lost. And certainly your army is one of your biggest resources, or your military is one of your biggest resources, and your population another, and other types of assets. Uh, yeah, so I don't know that that's going to come in place. But it segues us into another interesting area, which is
Well, wait, before you
self-driving car.
segue,
Oh my God.
Eric, that was a really cool link, and it reminded me of the Lego Chainsaw Massacre. I don't know why it just did.
I got to check those links afterwards. But so the dilemma now that's going with the self-driving cars, they're pretty much well tested now, and they're it looks like they're even going to allow them onto the roads at some point. I would expect that to happen certainly within my lifetime. At any rate, the big issue is
They already allow them on the roads.
oh yeah, but I mean where they're ubiquitous, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Massive production.
Yeah, mass production. So what I'm seeing is basically a big dilemma that they're finding with the safety and how they're programming the vehicles. So, for instance, what do you do when you have the options? You have two outcomes. You can save the driver's life, or you could kill 10 while killing 10 pedestrians, or you could save the 10 pedestrians while killing the driver. So does the artificial driver or the AI in the car get to determine that? Because humans, they'll plow through those pedestrians to save themselves. And people actually, when surveyed, will say that. Despite intellectually, when asked the question, well, they're not surveyed, they don't say it quite like that, but they say they want to have control. They want to be able to turn the AI off when they need to and all that good stuff. But basically, and you guys can know where I'm going with this. It'll be interesting to see where it goes. And what do you think is the right answer? I mean, obviously, if you're sitting behind the wheel, do you want the AI to kill you to potentially save other people's lives? Or would you rather it preserve yours and
They
put
went
your
over all
priority?
this in iRobot.
They touched on those things, but
That's why
in a
Will Smith didn't have
non-fictional
an arm,
in
and
a
the girl was dead.
in a non-fictional setting, I think these things are relevant to re-explore and readdress. And Asimov is as amazing as he
I
was.
think the robot did well. Saved Will Smith. Obviously, Will Smith saved the entire humanity afterwards.
They did not exactly go through all possible.
I
Oh,
think
oh boy.
I think the robot calculated that Will Smith would end up
I
saving.
would pose the question to all of you
That
out
little
there.
girl wouldn't do anything.
I would pose the question to all of you out there. Um, oh, what is that? That Future Tech Eric is linking to. Basically, would you allow the computer to potentially sacrifice your life for the greater good?
Yeah.
And if that's the case, could anybody be charged with your murder?
Hey, Cherie points out that Cat 8 has been approved and is being developed to support 25 and 40 gigabit speeds over short distances. That's cool.
You got a link for us, Shrey? And I'm assuming this is all copper, right? This isn't I'm not too familiar with Cat 7 exactly, but we're still talking about copper, right? Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing what that old copper technology is still capable of doing for us these days.
Here's the link for you, Michael.
No, I'm not gonna click on that, but I guess I could look it up myself. Sure, you're right.
Sandstorm.
Excuse me.
Oh, that does look cool. So what, that's like Rockstar for VR? It kind of looks like repetitive boxing after a while. I don't know if I would play that game much. Hopefully it was free. All right, well, we're past our hour time limit. Michael, where'd you go? Michael,
I'm
come
here.
back.
I'm here.
Why would you leave right
The
now?
dogs needed to be let out.
Why would you do that? Anyway, we're going to wrap her up for today. We'll be back tomorrow at 6 p.m. And again, we are here to provide support or answer any questions about our products and services primarily. But we do appreciate everyone joining us and offering up links and talking about them with us. Good knowledge for all anyway. So thanks, Futures Tech crew, Eagle Tech, Shuk. I'll leave you with one more link here that just goes over how the day after tomorrow happened 30,000 years ago and probably will happen again soon. So,
What?
thanks everyone, and we'll see you tomorrow if we're not in a frozen wasteland. Take us on out, Michael.
Okay. We're getting out of
Praise the sun,
YouTube.
y'all.